There are fewer than 30 men in the world qualified to drive Formula One. A mere half dozen, perhaps, to win. At this moment, I'm inclined to think you're not one of them.
No, you want to. Keep up the good work, and there you have it. There you go.
Welcome to F1Weekly.com. My name is Clark Rogers. I'm the host of the program. I'll be joined by Nasir Hamid, my co-host. This is podcast number 1076, December 28th, 2024. Nasir.
Thank you, sir. All quiet on the racing front. We look at the life and times of ACBC. We say no to Nabisco as we serve lukewarm decaf Colombian in the palatial studios today. We shall explain gladly. Back to you, Chief.
Thank you, Nasir. On today's program, Norris believes he can be world champion. Max says not so fast. Pun intended. Sainz leaves Ferrari in his new Daytona SP3 worth 2.2 million euros. And Fernando says it's now or never. And this week's interviews, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a big one again. Alex Wurz. Lots of history there. You know he's got a lot to talk about. And a young up-and-coming American driver, Simon Sikes. You'll enjoy that. And yes, we do need your contributions to keep this program on the air. Just click on the Support F1 Weekly tab. You know you want to. Nas, welcome to the studio. I know you've been working hard. No racing, zero racing. You continue to bring us more facts and figures on motorsports. Nas, how are you?
Well, another year, another season has come and gone. Some things have not changed. Max is champion, 4 in a row. Toto and LCH still wondering, where did our love and pace go? And some things have changed. Red Bull finally tells Checo, hit the road, Jack. Sargent misses the beat and gets the same CD. The Formula One CEO tells the Department of Justice, the first time ever I saw your case, I felt the earth move beneath my feet. Oh yes, a whole medley of situation played out in 2024, and we now look forward to the 2025 motor racing season. You may ask yourself, where is my beautiful Dakar in Daytona 24 Hour? Well, wait no more. We have them in January. The Dakar Rally starts soon. After moving from Africa to Latin America, it now takes place in the new burning hotbed of motorsports, or I should say hotbed of sports, from golf to Grand Prix racing, and that would be Saudi Arabia. Carlos Sainz Sr. will be looking to do a Dave Brubeck and take 5, this time in a Ford Raptor. Other I could have been a contender include another ex-winner, Nasir Al-Attiyah from Qatar. He will be driving a Dacia Sand Rider. Interesting name for a model racing in Saudi Arabia, Sand Rider. And so will be Sebastian Loeb. Dacia is a Romanian brand which is now owned by Renault Group. What are you most excited about the upcoming new season?
Well, obviously, we have Adrian Newey now at Aston Martin. We have our favorite driver on the grid, Lance Stroll, and Fernando, el más macho del mundo, is promised a competitive package. So I expect them on the podium every weekend. I expect Norris to question himself again, because over this off period, Norris is mulling in his head, can I be as vicious and mean and cutthroat as Max Verstappen? Because that's what he's going to have to do to win the World Championship. I don't care if you've got the fastest car or not. There's more to winning a World Championship than having the fastest car, I should say most of the time. But nevertheless, it's going to be exciting. We know the RB21, if they don't give Max a really, really good car, he could just walk away right then. So it's going to be a great season. I cannot wait. And to see Flavio back again, I'm pumped up, Nasir.
Naturally, I am also very excited about the 2025 season. Main question for me is, will the team that won the Constructors' Championship give us the Drivers' Champion also? Which should mean the end of Max's march. Obviously, easier said than done. The other question is, how competitive will be the first Red Bull not designed by Mr. Adrian Newey in a long, long time? May the best man win the championship in 2025. But if I have a wish for 2025, Mr. Rogers, it's this. I wish in the opening round in Albert Park, Lewis Carl Hamilton does what Mario Andretti did in South Africa, what Nigel Mansell did in Brazil, what your man Fernando Alonso did in Bahrain, and what Kimi Raikkonen did in Melbourne. The answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. Win the Grand Prix on debut with Ferrari. That's what I'm talking about. Can you dig it, my brother?
I can dig it, my brother. And the brothers dig it. Of course. Everybody will be on pins and needles if he's leading the Grand Prix for the final 10 laps. I hate to say that. I think we're fantasizing now. I think it's going to take a little while for Lewis to adapt. Now, if I'm wrong, better for us, better for everybody on the globe. But yes, I mean, we do want surprises, excitement, and we like to see success. And Lewis Hamilton being successful in a Ferrari is going to blow people's minds.
Now, if this wish is granted, I will automatically default to my next wish, and that is to see Fernando Alonso win a race in 2025. Will this make your Mile 7 blues go away, Mr. Rogers?
It would indeed. I would be bravoing. I'd be Fernandoing. We all need the Fernando win. Formula One needs the Fernando win. And not only that, but Aston Martin has to begin the beginning. You see, where we see winning, we see possibilities, we see a happy and fruitful Adrian Newey. So this is the first season of the rest of your life.
Now we say no to Nabisco. Fernando Alonso is happy for Andrea Stella with McLaren winning the Constructors' Championship this season. Senor Stella was his engineer in Abu Dhabi 2010 when their championship hopes in a red-hot machine were torpedoed by a Russian yellow submarine commanded by Admiral Petrov. Stella and his crew have done a great job in bringing McLaren to the top from the depths of Motorsports Mariana Trenches. His message to his people is, proceed with caution. In a story on espn.co.uk by Lawrence Edmondson, Senor Stella said, and I quote, "We will always have poison biscuits dropped in our camp. We will always have poison biscuits dropped and with an attempt to create division to break the cohesion that we have in the team. End quote. Stella emphasized the importance of teamwork, and success is not a one-man show. I have a question for the Duke of Dijon. On paper, chances are awfully good that McLaren driver will win the 2025 championship. Do you think Max has something to fear in McLaren pace, or the only thing he has to fear is fear itself? What say you, FDR of podcasting?
Yes. Well, fear itself, for sure. You have to be frightened of that, but let's face it. Everybody at Red Bull knows and know one thing. Even if the car is not up to snuff, they have the max factor. And when you have the max factor, it's going to be tough on Lando. It's going to be tough on McLaren. Not only that, but I think Lando is a little more hardened. He's a little tougher now. He realizes that friendships have nothing to do with world championships. So it's going to be a tough battle. But on the other hand, we're also looking at and hoping that Lewis Hamilton's up in the front. And Fernando Alonso. We want to see him up in the front. And the new upcoming Jim Clark. We want to see Lance Stroll, if they have a competitive package right there behind Fernando. So there's just so much going on that we do really, really need to just settle down. Once testing starts, we can start getting those juices flowing. But 2025 is a big open question. For me, I think the man who won the World Championship has the edge on everybody, even with the slower car. So there you have it, Nasir.
Next, we move on to Sebastian Montoya, the decaf Colombian. Much is expected from Bambinos of great racing talents. Some live up to the hype and some, well, let's just say the apple falls and starts rolling away from the tree. Not sure why, but Sebastian Montoya used to be a Red Bull Junior. Next season, he will race in Formula 2, which is the final frontier before the pinnacle of motor racing, Formula Uno. Obviously, because of the name, he is in the news and on telecast quite frequently. So I thought, let's take a look at his racing achievements, or in simple language, check him out. I was very surprised to find that after racing 5 seasons in the European theatre, which included 2 years in Formula 4, 1 year in Formula Regional Europe, and 2 years in Formula 3, he does not have a single win. This kind of racing performance would not even get him a call from a top IndyCar team. The power of money is amazing in this day and age in advancing your career. The other side of the coin is a mechanic saying to me, look at how many jobs are supported by such rich kids, which is so true, and we don't want people losing jobs. As a full disclosure, I must say Sebastian has won races in the Middle Eastern theatre, but we all know meat and potatoes is found on Silverstone and Monza and not at tracks like Yas Marina and in Manama. Senor Rogers, what is your dos pesos on this percolated situation? We want nothing but the truth.
Well, Mr. Perry Mason, the truth is he'll be hanging out with Leo Manzel, and pretty soon they'll become avid bird watchers. Yeah, I mean, come on, folks. But I understand. Juan Pablo Montoya, he's trying to live again through his son, to be at the racetracks. He wants to be the Colombian Jos Verstappen. And that's okay. We all have dreams. And believe me, he drinks coffee. He'll wake up eventually.
Now we come to our special feature, Gone But Not Forgotten, ACBC, Anthony Colin Bruce Chapman. Chapman was the genius behind Lotus, the marque that took legends of Grand Prix motor racing like Jim Clark, Graham Hill, Jochen Rindt, Emerson Fittipaldi, and Mario Andretti to World Championship glory. After Enzo Ferrari, Chapman is the most influential and charismatic character the world of Formula One has ever seen. Let's take a look at his early days. His story began in Surrey, England, where he was born on May 19, 1928. Chapman's father operated the Railway Hotel in London. After earning his engineering degree and learning to fly, Chapman's adult life was in high gear and fast forward. Royal Air Force, then working at the British Aluminium Company, and indulging in his passion of tinkering with cars. He borrowed 25 pounds from Hazel, who was then his girlfriend, later became his wife, to start his company. Lotus Engineering was established in 1952. Now let's take a look at Chapman, the race driver. Like Enzo and Ecclestone, Chapman had driving ambition. He entered his Lotus in the 1955 Le Mans with himself as the number one driver. Surprise, surprise. He and co-driver Ron Flockhart were disqualified for reversing on the track. The following year at the Sarthe circuit, Chapman and American co-driver Herbert Mackay Fraser retired 3 hours before the finish. The sister car of Reg Bicknell and Peter Job took class victory and finished 7th overall. Chapman's racing career and dream came to a halt when he crashed into his Van Walt teammate Mike Hawthorne in practice of the 1956 French Grand Prix at Reims, and a little bit of this video is available on YouTube if anybody is interested. Team Lotus first appeared in Formula One at the 1958 Monaco Grand Prix. Graham Hill retired with engine problems, and Cliff Allison finished 6th. Cliff Allison would score the team's only points from the season from his 4th place finish in the Belgian Grand Prix. Stirling Moss gave the first podium and F1 victory to Lotus Mark in his Rob Walker privately entered Lotus 18 in round 2 of the 1960 Formula One season, and that was Monte Carlo. The team's own maiden victory was at Watkins Glen in the 1961 season finale, the US Grand Prix at the beautiful Watkins Glen. The winner, Scottish racer Innes Ireland, was told by Chapman a few weeks later at the Earl's Court Motor Show he will not be driving for the team next season, and till his death, Innes remained very bitter towards Jim Clark. He was under the impression that Clark wanted him out, or at least did not support him in the team. It was with another racer from the north of England that Chapman and Team Lotus would reach new heights and championship glory. And of course we are talking about the Scottish farmer who raced only for Chapman in his glittering Grand Prix career, and of course Jim Clark. Among the many of Chapman's innovations was the car he introduced in 1962, the Lotus 25, Formula One's first monocoque chassis design. Clark took his and the car's maiden win with an impressive performance at Spa. In the 1963 season, in which all the races were won by British drivers, Clark took 7 wins from 10 races to be crowned world champion, and Team Lotus won the Constructors' Championship for the first time. Chapman and Clark again dominated the 1965 season. The combination took 6 victories from 10 races and won the greatest spectacle in racing, the Indianapolis 500. On New Year's Day in 1968, Clark broke Fangio's record of 24 Grand Prix wins by taking victory in the South African Grand Prix at Kyalami. This was not only his final victory, but also his final Formula One race. In April, Lotus entered him in a race where a young English driver by the name of Max Mosley was making his Formula 2 debut, and this, as we all know, was at Hockenheim Ring. Chapman was deeply affected by the death of his best friend and star driver. And of course, Clark was killed in the rain in the early parts of the event. Chapman did not even come to the race shop for 3 weeks. The season was salvaged by his other driver, Graham Hill, of course, who won the second round in Spain and captured his second title at the end of the racing year. The 1968 world champion Hill described his employer, I quote, "The standards he sets for himself and his own mechanics more or less sets the tone, and of course, you've got to come up to that anyway." End quote. Now, Mr. Hill, known as the life of the party, was in no joking mood when he also said, and I quote, "When you're overtaken by your own rear wheel, you know you're sitting in a Lotus." End quote. How very true. On a positive note, the season saw Chapman securing sponsorship from Gold Leaf Tobacco. The era of big corporate spending in Formula One had arrived, and initially there was a lot of uproar that BBC would not televise these races because free advertising, but all these issues were resolved. The Lotus 72 was another clever innovation from Chapman and Maurice Philippe. The innovative wedge-shaped design featured radiators mounted on the side of the car. After adding oil, water, and Chapman's favorite ingredient, lightness, the car weighed 530 kilograms, which was the minimum allowed at that time. Jochen Rindt was another driver who met Chapman's exacting standards. He gave the Type 72 its first victory in the 1970 Dutch Grand Prix. Like Sterling Moss and Jackie Stewart before him, Rindt was concerned about Chapman's obsession with adding lightness to his racing cars. The German-born Austrian driver even wrote a letter to him expressing his safety concerns about Lotus cars. Over the years, several drivers had been killed or seriously injured in Chapman's creations. And again, if anybody is interested, a copy of this letter can be seen on the web if you do some, searches. Unfortunately, Rindt's name would be added to that list after his crash at Monza in practice for the 1970 Italian Grand Prix. Dr. Marco's school friend would go on to become Formula One's first and hopefully only posthumous world champion. During the season, Chapman had discovered another rare talent, Emerson Fittipaldi, the Brazilian who had arrived in England the previous year without speaking a word of English. In October 1970, he had scored his first victory at Watkins Glen. And in 1972, at the age of 25, he would become at the time the youngest world champion, driving the beautiful Lotus 72 in iconic JPS livery. This is just my humble opinion. Only the Gulf and Martini colors come close to the grace and beauty of JPS livery. The Lotus 72 would score 20 Grand Prix wins, including Ronnie Peterson's maiden win at Paul Ricca in 1973. Chapman's final world champion was Mario Andretti. His commitment and dedication were akin to Clark's. In 1968, Mario made a dramatic Grand Prix debut by taking pole position for his home race at Watkins Glen in a Lotus. A decade later, he would become world champion in tragic circumstances at Monza. Chapman's latest trick up his sleeve with the assistance of Peter Wright was ground effect. The Lotus 79 was class of the field. The opening lap accident led to the death of Andretti's teammate Peterson. And Peterson had crashed his 79 in practice, so in the race he was driving the old Lotus 78. Ironically, the super Swede, who had just signed to drive for McLaren in 1979, had earlier said to journalist Keith Botsford, I quote, "I just don't intend to be another dead hero for Colin Chapman," end quote. For the 1981 season, Chapman and his engineering brains, Peter Wright, Tony Rudd, and Martin Ogilvy, came up with the idea of a twin chassis design, the Lotus 88. The team was not allowed to race the Type 88 in the opening 3 races, and in sense Chapman did not enter any cars for round 4 at Imola. The Type 88 would never race in Formula One, but soon Chapman had a bigger headache. His main sponsor, the mysterious American oil trader David Team, was arrested in Zurich on fraud charges. His sponsorship pipeline ran dry quickly for Team Lotus. Now we come to a chapter in Chapman's life that really tarnished his reputation, the DeLorean disaster. John DeLorean received an early grant of £35 million from the British government to set up manufacturing in Northern Ireland. He promised production would start in 18 months, but was unable to convince Porsche and BMW to help meet this deadline. They each told them it will take several years to produce and introduce a new car. Chapman, eager to get in on the action and always on a fast track, was the obvious answer. The two met in Geneva, and after 4 days of negotiating, they came to the agreement upon payment of over $17 million from DeLorean to Lotus. The investigators would later allege this invoice was paid twice, one for design work by Lotus Cars and the other as an introductory fee to GPD, Grand Prix drivers, a company set up years earlier by Chapman and his finance director Fred Bushell for tax avoidance. Here is an interesting quote from Chapman. "Tax evasion is a crime. Tax avoidance is science." The second payment was deposited in their personal bank accounts in Switzerland. Bushell later pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 3 years in prison. Chapman was a man on a mission in a hurry, pushing the envelope, stretching the limits, and bending the rules to win at any cost. Sadly, without any regard for the safety of his drivers, was fair game. Tony Rudd, team manager at BRM who also worked for Chapman, once described an attempt by the Lotus genius to convince officials that the paper from a road map he had painted with aluminum paint and installed between the engine and driver compartment was fireproof. Needless to say, after much argument, the official refused to accept it as a fireproof bulkhead. Now we come to the last lap. On the evening of December 15, 1982, Chapman flew home from a meeting in Paris. He would not see another sunrise. At the age of 54, he passed away from a massive heart attack. Today, his son Clive runs Classic Team Lotus from Norfolk. Mr. Rogers, Senna's first win came in a Renault-powered Lotus in that famous 1985 Portuguese Grand Prix. I am guessing you have some affinity and respect for the genius that was Mr. Colin Chapman. What say you?
Certainly a genius to an extent, but for me, his cars are just too fragile and cause too many deaths for me to be a big fan. But certainly, I love the Renault package, but I was more of a Renault fan. But Renault engines were terrific. Unfortunately, that is gone too. But yeah, very sad story. Bad decision making. And, boy, people think Max Verstappen is brutal. Colin Chapman was brutal. Pay the highest price with young drivers. So it's a tough part of Formula One. It's part of the history of Formula One. And there you have it, Nas. The DeLorean thing always blew my mind. I always just went, what in the world is going on here? But keep up the good work, Nas.
Now we come to numbers game. Thanks to the wonders of interweb, I looked at some interesting information which I would like to share with members of F1 Weekly Familia. These are the numbers posted on Facebook, and what could be more reliable than social media these days. This is about Constructors' Championship and how much each team will earn for their hard work in 2024. And my understanding is money they earn in a season is paid the following season. A smart move, but what else would you expect from Mr. Bernie? The championship winning team is McLaren, so they will receive $140 million. Ferrari is numero dos, so they will receive $131 million. Now, I am not sure if this figure includes the love bonus, which Bernie had allowed them in return for Ferrari not joining the breakaway series. The team that won the Drivers' Championship, Red Bull, finished third in the Constructors' Championship and will receive $122 million. Muchas gracias to Checo. The one-time leader or dominator in the hybrid era, Mercedes, they finished fourth and they will receive $113 million. Lawrence Stroll's team, Aston Martin, they will make a few extra buck and receive $104 million. So I really feel Mr. Lawrence Stroll's pain. Sauber finished dead last 10th in a championship. They will receive only $60 million. Now, the Constructors' Championship did not start in 1950. Constructors' Championship came into being in 1958, and the first team to win the Constructors' Championship was Vanwall from UK, British Racing Green Cards. And this shouldn't surprise anybody. Ferrari has the most Constructors' Championship, 16. And we shall return with Motorsports Mondial.
Very good, Nasir. Keep up the good work, and we'll be back after these brief messages.
Hi, I'm David Coulthard, otherwise known as DC, and you're listening to F1 Weekly.
Hi, my name is Linus Lundqvist, and you're listening to F1 Weekly.
Welcome back to F1Weekly.com. Clark Rogers here, your host. And now, as we spin the globe and go around the world with Motorsports Mondial and the king, the Swami himself, Nasir Hamid.
And today's interview of the week, this is with Austrian Le Mans winner and Grand Prix racer and F1 steward, Alex Wurz. His kids are also now racing, and I remember watching him racing with Benetton. He actually ended up marrying their PR lady, and his father was also involved in motorsport, so a lot of history there with the Wurz name. It was very nice chatting with him. I thank him for his time and hope listeners enjoy this conversation. Okay, folks, I'm here with Alex Wurz, and he had some great moments under the Golden Arches in New Zealand. So, Alex, pick up the story, please.
I have some stories, but you're referring to New Zealand, where I was racing there as a young kid. But as it happened, I just ran out of monies. One second. But you know this is the story where we had no more monies in the end. Okay. Should I start again?
Yeah, please.
So you referred to New Zealand, which of course was a fantastic time in my life. I was 17, we were down there alone with my brother who was supposed to look after me. I ended up looking after him, of course. And we all ran out of monies. And in the day it was not easy to find some money. So I was under pressure to win races and get prize monies, which we got. But the last race, fighting for the championship, I ran out of talent, crashed against my competitors, and not only did I not win the championship with my stupid move, but of course didn't get a paycheck or a prize money check in the end of the weekend, so we couldn't pay the hotel. So the hotel owner was terribly upset and threw us out, and then we had a full day to wait until our flight home. And we literally had to go through every bag. We had every little pocket to find cents and little dollars. And then was 3 of us, and we had enough money for 1 Big Mac. So on the airport, we went to McDonald's, asked to buy 1 Big Mac and be split into 3 fair parts. The lady was a bit confused, but she saw that we are serious, and because that was the only food we had for the 24 hours. And then thank God we took the flight home and got rescued. But it was a fantastic time to be down there and live through those moments.
And you have another story for us, I understand?
Yeah, it's not a promotion for McDonald's, but strangely enough that whenever we win the World Championship with Toyota and the drivers, the last race is always in the Kingdom of Bahrain.
It's a late race, so we come out of the circuit around 2 in the morning. Everyone is tired, but it is our tradition now since 2012. We go to McDonald's and we celebrate there. And we've done it again this year. Then you stink in the morning, you don't feel good. But anyway, you are world champion with a stomachache.
Yeah. Now, again, like you said, it's not a commercial for McDonald's. But when I was talking to Dr. Marco in July, he said when Pablo Montoya drove for his Formula 3000 team, he asked him which McDonald's is the best in Graz. He said, I did not even know we had 4 in Graz. Okay, now a question. Austria is a very small country, but your country's contribution to motorsports goes all the way back to Hans Stuck Sr., Ferdinand Porsche, Jochen Rindt, Niki Lauda, Toto Wolff, and of course Dr. Marco and you. What is the secret of success for a small country for have so much big success in motor racing?
You asked the question, the Austrian secret. And I can't tell you, because if I would tell you, all the other countries would know why Austria always has some people in the top league of motorsport.
So that's a secret, right? Okay, now you said your children are 4th generation motorsports. Give us a little background on, you started in motocross, right?
Yes, I have kids, 2 of them, I have 3 boys, 2 of them are racing, one in FIA F3 World Championship. Oscar is in Formula 4. They are the 4th generation of racers. My grandfather raced, my father raced, of course I raced, and now my kids. Personally, my career has started in BMX racing. I was a world champion, BMX racing, and started actually reasonably late to go into karting. I mean, I'm driving cars on my father's test centers since age of 8. So I'm always in the car, but actually professional sport career I had already with 12. I traveled around the world. Adidas was my sponsor to pay for the trainer, for me, for the journeys all around the globe to do BMX racing. That was a sensational time, but my eyes and heart was always in motor racing. So with 14 I then dropped the BMX bike, did 1 or 2 years parallel, but my aim was to be a professional race driver, and very glad I managed it.
Now in Formula 1, what are your best memories?
A lot of good memories, a lot of bad ones too.
Let's hear both, please.
In the end, it is now with a bit of distance. I'm a bit older, not a spring chicken anymore. It's a privilege that you are one of the few chosen drivers who is entitled to drive those cars from the best teams against the best drivers in the world on the coolest tracks around the world. And someone is actually paying you for that, which is your dream and your hobby. So I feel super happy that I had many years in Formula 1. My biggest success is, of course, now I'm a little bit, sentimental, is I met my wife. She gave me a beautiful 3 kids, and we are married ever happily and hopefully for a long time.
And you met her at Benetton, right?
Yes, she was running the media and communications department in Benetton, and as it happens, and so it happened. Racing was fantastic, the times of the V10 engines, 1,000 horsepower. I mean, the strongest engine I had under me was 9,995 horsepower. In the WEC, I raced with over 1,000 horsepower, the World Endurance Championship with Toyota, but in Formula 1, the V10 engines with only 640 kilos of weight. I mean, this was 20,000 RPMs. It was really an incredible period where every week we were testing and developing parts, tires, engines, gearbox. There was no stop. It was the most intense technology space race I've ever seen. And that was so cool to be part of it, because it made me understand what makes a top team, what makes them win, occasionally what makes them lose, and this very process-driven operating. And that has been engraved in my mind, and I used it in my own business, and so far that works very well.
Now, how was your relationship with Signor Flavio Briatore?
A funny one. Flavio, I love him, but didn't do that always. He was actually responsible for me getting into F1, because I was nagging him as a F3 driver. I want to be in Formula 1, and it was always wasn't convinced. And then he said to me once, "Hey, Alex, I know you do Le Mans in 3 weeks' time. if you win in Le Mans, you get the test in my Formula 1 car. And literally after the Le Mans victory, he called up and says, congratulations, I send you the flight ticket, end of season, you are testing. And already after the first 2 runs, he said, okay, your speed is good, you are going to get the contract. So then he was so motivating me. I was super fast. I went on the podium in my 3rd race. We turned around the season with Benetton from starting very bad to be suddenly again podium and race winning material. And that was the good part.
Now, when you got on the podium, did you hear on the team radio, bravo, bravo?
No, I didn't, because actually he left throughout the race because he was replaced as a team boss and only came back 1.5 years later. And then we didn't met on the best terms. I was a very stubborn young boy. I'm standing to it, so we fell out. But now we are laughing about it many years later, as he's a person. When he's on your side, he can motivate people like you cannot believe. And if you're not on his side, he can have the opposite effect, which then I felt on myself. But in the end, I had put it on my own card and responsibility because I was a bit too stubborn in negotiations and in the business.
You know, I want to ask you about another of your team principles, Patrick Head. I once read that when Heinz-Harald Frentzen test drove Williams for the first time, his feedback was so bad that Patrick Head asked him, are you sure you're a professional racing driver? How was your experience with Patrick Head?
Very good. I mean, he's a sensational character. Of course, talks very loud. You can hear him across the paddock. But I am a very technical person, very analytical, so we had sensational talks, conversations. He promoted me to actually race from coming as a test driver at Williams, and he called me first to be a test driver, to develop them. And we went from P8 in the championship with 1.5 years after, when I was racing together with Nico Rosberg, to be P4 in the constructors, with a very small budget. And that was because of an extremely good technical relationship with Sam Michael at the time as well, but Patrick Head, of course, is the overall leader. Incredible stories he has about the past, and I would just listen to him for hours.
Okay, now Red Bull is an Austrian team. Question I have for you. Early next year, Adrian Newey is gone. At the end of the season, Honda is saying sayonara. Where will be Max Verstappen in 2026? We need a scoop, please.
I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't answer that. Look, it's very simple. If I would be a driver management, and don't write, I'm saying Max Verstappen is doing that, please. But if I would be a driver manager, and Max and Raymond know exactly what they do, the moment I know my current contract is finished, I don't know in his case when it is, maybe you know better, I would of course now look who is putting the most resources in developing the new powertrain. Because usually in this business, the guys who put the most money at it will end up as the fastest. And then you have that effect which we've seen with Mercedes. They had this technology advantage because they deserved it, because they put all the eggs in this basket 10 years ago and then had 1 decade of domination. So any driver who has the luxury that every team would take him should exactly do that and just be ice cold about it and go there where the most money is spent into this rule set, because normally that should be the successful team.
What was the biggest surprise, Lewis leaving Mercedes or Newey leaving Red Bull?
Definitely Lewis. To announce at such an early stage to leave and then going to Ferrari, I mean, I thought at one point he will and he want to have that on his CV. But to have it this way, I was extremely surprised. I think the whole world was surprised. Even Toto, in a sense, was surprised. But this story and this book is long not finished, and let's see what the last chapter is.
Well, the last chapter brings me to my favorite question. Will Lewis get number 8 in a red car before Alonso gets number 3 in a green car?
That's a good question. Again, have to go. I don't have a crystal ball, but you know what? We will be very proud and happy to watch how this unfolds. I think it's easier for Lewis to be quickly successful than Adrian to make Aston Martin a race-winning and championship-winning material, because it's not that easy. If it would be easy, everyone can do it, and Aston Martin already have really good guys. They occasionally had this podium finishing chances, now dropped off again. You have to respect them from where they came from the difficult times they came from. And Lawrence Stroll is a man who is not only having visions, he's following them up, and signing Adrian is impressive. But it will take time.
Do you think Adrian Newey and Honda can do the impossible, make Lance Stroll a world champion?
I don't think that's the impossible. It just needs the time, the dedication, with the extra little bit of luck involved as well. But I think the combination of Adrian, of Aston, could be very strong. And the moment drivers like Lance or others, actually, you will see that they can perform.
Okay, there's a lot of murmuring going on about Audi. They're selling a stake to people from Qatar. There's even talk with all the problems in Germany with Audi, they may pull out. What do you see their future in Formula One, especially the first year, 2026?
Audi is coming in at the time of quite a dramatic rule change. It's not only the chassis rules, of course, it's engine, the power unit. That is not easy. At the same time, they are having a team which currently doesn't have good correlation. Let's be honest, they are the last on the standings at the moment, and they struggle to put the wind tunnel data on the track. That's what we call a correlation between the virtual world and the real world. So they have to fix this as well. So that's quite a mammoth task. But for them, I think and that's the real key question, if their power unit output puts them on a good engine power and drivability, then I think they are in the game, and you will see that they can make step forwards. I'm convinced about that. But if the power unit drops them a few tenths or a second behind, because it's really not that easy also to do the F1 power units, and they are starting from well behind all the others, then of course they are in for a hard ride and a frustrating ride, and then they need to ask their fans and especially their board to be patient.
Talking of new entries, Michael Andretti has been rejected by Formula One. What's your take on that? Is it political? Is it greed? What do you see the end game, especially with U.S. Department of Justice getting involved?
I don't know enough about what happened. So I cannot really comment on those items. There was, of course, a lot written in the media, but that's not my style to speak towards things I don't know clearly. As a driver, as the chairman of the GPDA, representing the interests of the drivers, having young kids who want to find good seats in the top category, of course, it would be better to have 12 teams and 24 drivers instead of 20, because it's 4 more. That's better for the market, for the fans, for everyone. But indeed, there is contracts and business, and all of those items have to be respected. What is going right or what's going wrong there, and what really is behind all of this, you have to ask someone else.
Now, you've been an FIA steward. Is the sport too regulated now? We see all these issues, guys complaining, he unsafe release in the pit lane, going off track. What's your take on this?
Of course, there is this fantastic word, deregulation, and everything is over-regulated. That's not just for the stock market, that's for our entire life nowadays. But equally, from an outside perception, it's very easy to say Formula One is over-regulated. And to an extent, I believe so too. However, if you are suddenly tasked to have less regulation and then see the consequences would perhaps be much worse for racing, you have to really make sure that we are addressing the over-regulations. Now I'm using that word as well, because I do believe we can manage a certain decrease, that it is much more straightforward for the fans at home to understand, follow the decision making, which for me starts with number one is consistency, because then you get used to it and then there's no more debate. And here we all together, the entire stakeholders, including the drivers and myself, just work together, because we are so gifted to have this fantastic sport booming around the world, and so it shouldn't be us who is actually putting roadblocks into even more popularity.
Okay, final question. In all the time you have raced Formula One sports cars, if you were a team owner, if you were Flavio and had a team, and you could pick 2 drivers, who would they be?
That's a difficult question, but first give me the checkbook and then I will find you the drivers. What about that?
It's in the mail.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I keep saying since 2 years that there is now a generation of young drivers coming up from karting, Formula 4, Formula 3. Not just a few. You could name 10, 15, 20 of them. And this is a generation which you see the forefront of Antonelli coming, Oli Behrman. This is a big machine arriving, and they will be the next generation, not only in F1, they will also be in IndyCar, they will be in World Endurance Championship and so on. And they are incredibly talented. They are incredibly fast, incredibly prepared. So I would definitely go for the young generation. I'm not saying the old guys are old and should think of expiry date, because now it is a collection of the world's best, but you really have to see what is coming. They are so complete, way more complete than the previous generations which we see now. I would go for the youth.
No, but in terms of my question was, among the drivers you raced against, who really impressed you?
Okay, so that was definitely Michael. Was not an easy person to be along with, but indeed he had a working mentality, incredible. Kimi, Mika was fantastic. I mean, Mika was a funny character in the sense that he was funny indeed as from a human point, but as a driver, he had weak points. And you know what? He didn't even care about the weak points. If he knew that chicane number 7, he was slow, he didn't try to improve 7. He just found so much lap time everywhere else that he was still the fastest. That was pretty incredible. Nico Rosberg, for me, was the guy who could do the best qualifyings. And it wasn't done in a way that you think, I could never ever do this in a corner section. You could always see that it can be done. But the way he finally, on qualifying day and time, put it together was really outstanding, and you could see in qualifying he had the upper hand against Lewis as well. So, there's many others which maybe didn't even make it to Formula One. In the end, now I'm sentimental again, is that I had a lot of good guys who were my teammates, and I enjoyed racing against them.
Thank you, Sean. Very nice talking to you. All the best.
Okay, folks, I'm here with young American talent, Mr. Simon Sikes. Simon, we met at Road Atlanta. Good to see you again. How are you at Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
I'm doing well. I was there for IMSA, but back here in my home paddock, I would say, here at the IndyCar series. The lights were on track today, and we'll be on track Saturday, Sunday. So tomorrow I'll get first taste of Pro 2000 alongside competition. So I'm just really looking forward to it.
Great. Now, you were supposed to be a pilot of a 767 like your dad. Here you are piloting racing cars to success. What's your story about landing in motorsport?
Well, it all stems from a young age. I grew up with my father as a career Delta pilot, and it was always like, come on, let's go flying. And from a young age, we watched the movie Herbie the Love Bug, and I fell in love with motorsports. We were watching F1 and NASCAR and IndyCar every weekend, eating BLT sandwiches on Sunday, watching racing, and I said I want to be a race car driver. And graciously, they got me a go-kart for my 5th birthday. So we started racing locally, and it went well in karting. I raced karts for almost 10 years before I moved to the Skip Barber Race Series to start my open wheel path, and eventually that led to the USF Pro Championships, where I'm chasing a career in IndyCar.
Mom and Dad fully supportive of your racing adventure now?
100%. They've been behind me my whole life. They've been my biggest supporters on and off the track, and I really couldn't have done it without them. So it's a massive thanks to them for even letting me get to the spot where I can go and compete against all these talented drivers.
Good. This season you won the U.S. Formula 2000 Championship, 6 wins, 11 podiums from 18 races. What were the high, and if there were any low points of the season?
Well, there were definitely a lot of high points, but we started off the season with the lowest of lows. It never got as bad as it did at St. Pete. We had a really strong off season, rolled into the season looking great with spring training, had a great first practice at St. Pete, and then immediately crashed the car in qualifying. And so that was a hard reset. I didn't even know if I'd be racing the rest of the weekend. Team managed to get the car back together. We piecemealed the weekend together, and just kept kept going. We were in the points. We knew it was tough. We didn't have the budget to run the whole season, and so it was all pushing towards the end. The high points, probably Mid-Ohio race 3, where we were really strong. We had a win by about 10 seconds, and so it was just a perfect culmination of the team and driver working well together. But at the end of the year, the Portland finale, race 1, winning the championship there was an all-time great moment of my life.
Great. After 3 seasons with the same team, Legacy, you switched to Pabst Racing for the season. Main reason for the switch, and did you notice a big difference how each team was operating?
Yeah, so Legacy was great to me. They brought me into the series, the USF Pro Championships, and helped me out a lot along the way. Midway through 2022, we unfortunately didn't have the funding to continue the rest of the season, and I'd been doing partial seasons here and there with Legacy due to budget reasons, but by mid-2022, we didn't have any more budget at all, and the team unfortunately had to pull out of the series, and they found a lot of success in the sprint car world, but it left me looking for options heading into 2023, and that's where I found a great home with Pabst Racing. Augie was great in bringing me over, getting me in with the team, and the transition was seamless. At Legacy, we had some strong results here and there, but we weren't always the most consistent, and that's the biggest thing I can say with the transition is just the performance level of this team. They're fast, but the biggest thing is they're always fast. There's never an off weekend with Pabst Racing, and so I think that was the biggest difference, is just knowing we could fight at the front anytime we showed up at any track on the calendar.
And was the driver also fast all the time?
Yeah. No, that was a unique thing about this season, is that the car was good enough that really any shortfall I could put directly onto my shoulders. I knew that at the end of the day, if I didn't win a race, it wasn't because of car, team, or anything other than me behind the wheel. So it was great for my own development. And there were some moments where I didn't perform at my best, but we had a lot of high moments throughout the season as well. So I feel like it was strong, and we're just looking to make less errors heading into next year and see if we can go against this competition, because the field's just going to get stronger, and so we have to get better too.
Next question, most important. Winning the championship with Pabst Racing, do you get a free supply of Pabst Blue Ribbon for a season?
No, I wish. It's great. The team's great. Augie is amazing, and the support that he's allowed, that he's given me to go forward and work with the team. It's been great, and it's fun driving for a family with such a rich history as with the Pabst Brewing Company and PBR, but it's just a unique combination where they've been a part of that business so long, and they've been in the racing world for so long. They really know everybody, so it's a great way to just kind of get to know different people throughout the paddock.
For 2024, you move into USF Pro 2000. What is the game plan to win the championship in your rookie season, and who do you see as your main challengers?
There's going to be a lot of challenges heading into next season. It's going to be anything but easy. I think what we need to do is just kind of repeat how Miles started the season. Same car, same team, and he came out of the box strong, had great results through the first couple of weekends, and was able to take that points lead and hold on to it. So that would be the main goal, is to start off hot early and hold on to the momentum. But there are a lot of good drivers just here this weekend. A lot of the competition coming up from USF 2000 that I raced with Lockie, Nikita, Matt Clark, a lot of strong drivers that I've been racing against, and then a few that have stayed in pro and have come back from a hiatus or whatnot, like Christian Brooks, Braden Eves, Francesco Pizzi. So it's a really stacked field, in my opinion. It's not going to be easy, and I'll be racing against friends that I've been friends with for a long time, but they're also going to be competitors of mine next year, so it's going to be interesting.
American racing features great tracks like Road America, street circuits, and ovals. Is there a particular type of track you prefer or do better than others?
To say the type of track, it's hard to describe it. I like all the different types of courses we do throughout the season, from the street circuits to road courses and ovals, but above all, Mid-Ohio is far and above my favorite track. I seem to do well there. It comes naturally to me, and it's a very flowing technical track that I really enjoy. So that would be my favorite type of track, but I really enjoy the entire calendar.
Where would you like to see your career in 5 years?
In 5 years, I would love to be an IndyCar driver, hunting after Indy 500 wins and IndyCar championships. And there's still a long way to go to get there, but that is the dream.
Okay, once you get to IndyCar racing, if you have a choice to be the champion series or winner of the Indy 500, what say you?
That is a great question. Obviously, as a driver growing up, you always want to win the championship at the end of the year. When you get to IndyCar, things are a little different. I mean, if you win the Indy 500, you're cemented in history with your face on a trophy. But a championship's important. At the end of the day, the 500 is the race you want to win, so I would pick the 500.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, because if you win the Indy 500, you go to White House and everywhere. If you win the championship, you won't even get a free lunch at Waffle House. That's my opinion. Okay, now moving on, in our palatial studios, we are Formula One junkies 24/7. How deep is your love for Formula One?
It's pretty deep. I've been following it my whole life. I keep up with every single race weekend they do, and I know I'll probably never see myself in one of those cars, but I have a healthy appreciation for it and really enjoy watching it. It's been a part of my life growing up, and watching those guys drive, and now some of the guys that I used to be in karts with are up there making it into Formula One now. So it's really rewarding to see the drivers that I grew up with starting to make it into the top ranks of open wheel racing in the world. And I love F1. I love IndyCar. IndyCar is where I want to be, but I love watching F1.
Yes, and final question is about Formula One. Will Lewis Hamilton win championship number 8 before Fernando Alonso wins championship number 3? What says Simon Sikes?
Ooh. That's tough. They both have their work cut out if they want to take down Max, because Max is on a roll, but we both know how good Lewis and Alonso are. Again, I guess that would come down to which of their teams gets the cars to be able to beat the Red Bulls. And Mercedes looks good, but so does Alonso. So that's a tough question. Bets would be on Hamilton, but I wouldn't be surprised if Alonso got another championship soon.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Great talking to you.
You as well. Thanks for stopping by.
Finally, folks, we come to famous last words. Today they come from one of our favorites, JV, Jacques Villeneuve. He said, and I quote, "Liam is too cocky for someone with so little experience. We'll see how that attitude works with Max and inside the team. If Lawson is quick and presses backs, there will be friction." End quote. Friction, in the language of F1 Weekly Palatial Studios, it is also known as cage rattling, and we have seen a few of those. In the 20 years we have been podcasting. Now, obviously, we won't be podcasting forever. Definitely not in 25. And with that, we come to Musical Mondial of the Week, as we welcome Zager and Evans into the Palatial Studios. Thank you for listening, and please enjoy.